This is The John Michael Show, featuring original artists and music professionals from all around the world.
Live here with Chris Gantry at the Guitar Lounge. The great Chris Gantry.
Hey, everybody, all the way from Galveston, Texas, the one and only singer, songwriter, legendary, Mr. Chris Gantry. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be on it. And, thank you for having me, Michael. Appreciate it.
Oh, it is purely my pleasure. Now, you are now currently in Texas?
I'm in Galveston, Texas, a little barrier reef, right 45 miles past Houston, south. And it's tropical here, semi-tropical here. It's
great place to retire?
No, I'm not. Is this
a retirement time or place?
No, not at all, man. I'm working a lot, making records and playing a bunch. And so I'm healthy and still doing it, man. At 100 years old, man, I'm on the gravy train.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Now, you have a writer's workshop coming up at the Guitar Lounge with Falcon Eddie. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Next month and February, let's see, March the 17th and 18th, I think it is. And it was just conceived in the store that we should do this. And Eddie's telling me that, I need to have a curriculum. We'll figure out a curriculum. The last thing I know how to do is tell anybody or teach anybody how to write a song. It's a magical kind of out-of-body experience. And you can either do it two ways. You can not teach and discover something together and be on a level playing field, or I can go in with all kinds of, catchphrases and tips and blah, blah, blah. But that's not going to help anybody with the music, I don't think. So,
Right. So you either have it or you don't.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. You can be a novice and go to this workshop and get a lot out of it. There are no demands. There's no real course. It's a time of discovery. Let's dig into understanding what writing songs is all about, and, the magical, mystical aspect of it, rather than the hammer and nails on the horseshoe kind of a thing. And that's what songwriting is to me. It's a total 100% mystical experience, man.
So what comes to you first, the melody or the lyrics?
Whichever way it's given, I show up with a guitar. I don't have any preconceived notions. And the first thing that usually flies into my head is the line that I write down. And I just start playing to it, some chords, and it just starts to happen. And the idea and the theme of the song usually comes toward the end of the song. It reveals the message of what the whole thing was all about to begin with. And so I'm as much surprised at what it turns out to be as somebody who might be listening to it. So that's the fun part of writing songs. The other part is work, coming to a table with a preconceived title, and you have to write to that title. It becomes work. Nobody wants to work when you're writing songs.
Right. Nobody wants to work at all.
No, man.
If you can so-called go to work and not be working, that's great.
Absolutely, man.
So at what age were you when this writing came to you? Because you've written many award-winning songs over your career.
Well, I started when I was young in New York. I'm a New York kid, Queens, and I grew up in the doo-wop era, 50s, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, the Platters, the Diamonds, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis, all the good stuff. And I wanted to, when I heard that music as a 12-year-old, it was liberation time. It was, Freedom Day. All of a sudden, I had something that I could feel like I could be and want to be. So I went and bought a pawn shop guitar, and I had a little high voice and started singing and imitating. That's the way you learn. Start imitating these people and looking for a voice and stuff. So it went on and on and on. And by 14, I had a record contract.
Really? At 14 years of age?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, I started singing with another guy because we wanted to sound like the Everly Brothers, just like Simon and Garfunkel did. So, but they were called Tom and Jerry back before they were Simon and Garfunkel. So when they decided to stop using that name and become their real names, their manager made us step into that place and become the Tom and Jerry. And
okay.
We put out records on ABC, Paramount, and blah, blah, blah. So
well, that must have been a hell of an experience at 14 years of age. I mean, you really didn't know what was going on yet. You didn't know the industry. You didn't know if you're being taken advantage of or not being taken advantage of.
Well, we did get taken advantage of, but the blessing was that there was a place called the Brill Building. in New York, and the Brill Building was loaded with all the young writers that would become famous. The Neil Diamonds, the Carole Kings, Lieber and Stoller. They were all young and in that building, and we got to walk through the floors and meet all these guys and hear music coming out of the room. Some of them hits before they became hits, and we were in. My friend and I were in military school. I went to a military academy for 4 freaking years in high school from 12 to 16. And when we started making records, we got to be able to get weekend passes to go to New York and ply the trade a little bit, man. So
yeah, that's awesome. I'm assuming the military school wasn't your idea.
No, it wasn't, man.
Yeah.
It was tough. As I tell everybody, military school was 500 or 600 young boys between the ages of 12 and 16, all going through puberty at the same time, and the whole building just going, and everybody taking out their hormonal angst on each other. And usually, you know, how kids do, they fight and do all kinds of stuff. So that's what I was into. I was put there, but I made it work for me.
Right.
Made it work.
And then, so after 14, the record deal, how long did that go on?
It went on until I was 16, graduated, and I started looking at. I turned on an upstate New York radio station that played country music. I picked it up one night just by accident, and the first act I hear are the Louvin Brothers, and singing in real high harmonies and singing about being possessed by the devil, and me growing up in New York, doo-wop and Frank Sinatra and Rosemary Clooney and Nat King Cole. All of a sudden, here are these two wild people singing these crazy lyrics, and I said, "Wow, what is that, man? What is that stuff?" So I kept listening to this station every night, and all these old-time country guys would get on and sing these wild country songs, and I said, "I want to." So I go to the record shop and I look at all the vinyl and look at these guys, and I see that the same names keep coming up who wrote the songs for these people. So a few years later, when I went to Nashville, I met all those people that I was looking on the record, and I ended up going to work for them. So it was like providence and destiny just moving me from place to place. Piece on a checkerboard, man.
Oh, that's great.
So the other thing is, to cap it off, is that I showed up in Nashville at the right place at exactly the right time, which is what it's really all about, man. In a man or woman's life, is to be at that center, that epicenter, when everything's about to explode, man. Because you got to remember, 1962 or 3 was the beginning of the revolution in this country, the hippie revolution, man, and it was exploding on the coasts, and so it was quite a time, man.
Wow. And then you became quite an artist from being in Nashville. And then you also wrote some very famous songs for some what became famous musicians.
Yeah, well, 2 things. Back in those days in Nashville, the music business was run and operated by songwriters and singers themselves. The producers and the A&R men, they were all players and writers themselves. So they understood songwriters. So if you needed to understand something, you could walk into one of these guys' office and run something past them, and they'd give you the correct information that you needed as an artist, instead of somebody in a suit that was a businessman trying to figure out who you were and what to tell you. These guys knew exactly what to say. And so it was like a giant family back then. I could walk into Chet Atkins' office and say, "Hey, I've been trying to learn Deep River Blues on the guitar, man. I don't know how he's doing that chord." And he'd pull out a guitar and show me, man. You could walk past his secretary, just walk in and sit down. And so it was great. It was, now that doesn't go on anymore.
I'm assuming not, and hasn't been for a while.
So that's it.
So is there any song that you have written which you feel as if deserved an award or should have been a top 10 or a number one hit that just didn't get the airplay?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Atlanta, Georgia Stray. It's been recorded a few times, and it was in the pop charts by Sonny Curtis, who was one of the original Crickets with Buddy Holly's band. Had a solo career. He got it into the pop charts, but it didn't fly. And my recording of it, I love, but back then they were not. I was on Monument Records, and they weren't promoting in the way that people started to learn how to promote as the early '60s into the late '60s went on. There were still fledglings in the promotion department. So that song, Atlanta, Georgia Strait, and Allegheny that Johnny Cash recorded, that should have been a bigger hit. He recorded it himself. I sang it on his show, on the Johnny Cash show, and he recorded it as a duet with June Carter.
Now, you wrote that song?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so he sang it with June Carter, and it never went anywhere.
And he sang it by himself on the show a couple of times, and I performed it. But when I go back and look at myself performing it on his show, I must have been a little scary. I looked like kind of a wild animal standing there doing this song. And I think it was freaky for the audience to watch my performance. If you go back and look at it, it's on YouTube. Chris Gantry on the Johnny Cash show singing Allegheny. You'll see what I mean.
Yeah. Now, was that your first? Well, the Johnny Cash show only ran for 2 seasons?
No, it was a few more than that. I forget.
Okay.
It was a few more than 2 seasons, but the song that did do it, that was over the top, which was "Dreams of the Everyday Housewife" by Glen Campbell.
Yeah,
that helped. That really changed the way people perceived me in Nashville.
Right. As a writer.
Yeah, I was 22 years old when I wrote that. Man.
Right. Yeah, I've listened to it several times, and it really puts you back to when you wrote that song, and how the woman and the housewife was looked at and perceived versus today.
Well, I started catching flack from it back then. From
did you?
Women's rights,
Yeah.
They didn't want to. And I understand that, but I was born in the '40s, man, and we're, Ozzie and Harriet moms and moms, the Cleavers. Mom cooked, and mom was a housewife, and my mom was a housewife too, man. So,
Right. And there's really nothing wrong with that. That's the way I raised my children. And I think my kids turned out really good. So because they had that constant in the house every day, they had the stability of having a parent at home.
Absolutely.
I think that's very important.
I think it is too, man.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's lost, and people now are so far in debt they can't go back to that. But anyway, that's a different story.
Different story, man.
You had maybe a month ago, you did a little skit at the at Falconetti's Guitar Lounge. I don't remember the name of the song. It was about going to heaven with a bag of weed.
Yeah, it was called "Sneaking in the Back Door of Heaven."
Dude, that is an awesome song.
Oh, cool, man! I'm going to record that this next month. I'm finishing a rock record, a rock and roll record that I'm doing, and that's going to be on it. And I've got about 4 more songs to finish, and that's the one I'm putting on there. So
I'm assuming you are a user of cannabis, and you enjoy.
Once in a while, yeah. I'm at my age. It's a little hard for me to get my singing voice back if I imbibe too much. So I restrict myself a little bit on that. And I like good glass of tequila though.
Oh, great. A tequila drinker. Gosh, they're so hard to find. Thank you. When I get down to Galveston, you and I are going to enjoy.
Yeah. Patron, man. Only Patron.
Really?
Yeah, man. Good stuff.
The silver, I'm assuming, right?
Silver, man.
Silver, always silver. That's the good stuff. I could drink tequila all night and walk home, and I'm good. Other people, they drink a shot of tequila, they're falling over. Going, I'm like, what is wrong with you? You know, that's good. I look forward to that one. Wow. Yeah.
So let's just back up a little bit and cap off the Nashville thing.
Mhm.
Being in the right place at the right time was perfection for me, because I was surrounded by the great songwriters of that day. Chris Christopherson and I worked in the same publishing company for 2 years. We saw each other every day and became close buddies. He was searching for his voice, which eventually came out and just exploded. And I was searching for mine, and I found it. And Eddie Rabbitt was around me, and Larry Gatlin was around me, and Dolly Parton was next door, and Roger Miller was next door, and all these people saw each other all the time. And they congregated in a place called the Tally-Ho Tavern, which in the afternoon, all these old-time country stars like Farron Young and Webb Pierce would pile into the bar, and Johnny Cash would come in, and he weighed 120 pounds off the road, and they'd get in circles and pass the guitars around, and it was like Shakespeare 101, man. You heard the great stuff. You heard the great stuff.
Wow.
So after you heard it, me being young, you'd run back to your place and go crazy and stay up for 40 hours, just totally jacked, man. Just writing. So, and that's what everybody did. It was great, man.
I'm just picturing the whole thing, wishing I could have experienced what you've experienced.
Well, you couldn't have. Well, yeah, I understand that. Are you a writer too? Are you a singer?
No, this is the best I can do right here.
Okay. Well, you're doing the right thing then, man. You're doing what you love, obviously. Is this what you love?
Yeah. That and women. We're good.
Yeah, well, are you married?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. Well, how old are you, man?
I'm 51.
51. Oh, well, shit, you got plenty of time, man. You're good. You're good. So here we go. Keep going, man.
Yeah, let's keep going. Oh boy, I'm just, so you and Johnny Cash were personal friends also, you and Chris Christopherson?
Oh yeah, man. Oh,
man, that's just, Johnny Cash has always been one of the songs, one of the artists I always want to listen to. And just the thinking right now that used to would hang out and
let me back up. When I was in military school, I Walked the Line came out, and I was 13, and it blew my mind, man. I said, how am I going to be able to write a song like that? How can I play like that? You know, simple things. So years later, when I get to Nashville, after him being a childhood kind of a idol of mine, I get in trouble. And we had met a few times in the bar at the Tally-Ho Tavern, and I get in trouble because I had bought a farm with some money that I started making. And I started growing a lot of weed on the farm, man. So the feds busted me, man. Somebody snitched me out and I got busted. So I ended up back in Nashville, and John calls me up and he said, hey, listen, Chris, I heard spread in the newspapers what's going on with you. Why don't you come out to stay at the lake house until all this stuff blows over a little bit, just get out of town. So I'm going, whoa, okay. So I go out to the lake house, and John and June are there, and John Carter Cash hadn't been born yet. And so I'm staying in the house of the king. All of a sudden I'm thinking of back in military school, and here I am in the house with John, and I'm a little nervous, you know, young, and he's very affable gentleman, man. He makes you feel right at home. We started hanging out and driving around in the Jeep and talking and going out to the cabin, which is now a big recording studio, and just getting to know each other. And so after that, we bonded, and he invited me on his show, and I sang Allegheny, and then I wrote for his publishing company. I signed with his publishing company, and I recorded an album at his studio. And the album got lost for 40 years. But after I recorded the album, he came up to me in the office one day, and he sidled up to me and he said, Chris, June and I, we went in the studio last night, and we listened to your album. And to be honest with you, son, I don't even think the drug people are going to be able to understand it. and when he said that, I said, yeah, baby. I had transcended the genre a little bit. And so after that, he went out of business with his recording studio and publishing company. And the album got lost for 40 years. And then one day, his grown son calls me and says, Chris, I've been looking around in the vaults out here, and I found a bunch of tapes that you recorded here. So I said, wow. I said, that's the record I cut for your dad. So he gives them back to me, and I give them to a guy named Peter Cooper at the Country Music Hall of Fame, who just passed away recently. And he sends them up to Chicago to Drag City Records, and Drag City Records put it out. And it's a wild album. It's called Chris Gantry at the House of Cash. And it's pretty crazy, man.
I look forward to hearing that now.
Yeah, you can find it on some YouTube, or Spotify, or Amazon sells them, and blah blah blah. But I could run and get one of the records and show it to you, what it looks like.
Oh, you have vinyls?
Yeah, I got vinyl.
Do you have many? It's printed on vinyl now?
Yeah, I mean, I could send you one.
Where could somebody buy one?
You can order them from Drag City Records, or they're on Amazon, or on eBay. They come up sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Gantry at the House of Cash.
Oh, I'd love to have one. An autographed one from you? That'd be awesome.
Well, we'd have to get an address from you, and we have to send you one, okay?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to look that up right after the show.
Okay.
Hopefully I can find it, and I can put some of that in with the show.
But the cool stuff is on the back of the cover. Wrote the whole story of how it went down, and going to Mexico to write all the songs, and getting involved in mitotes and peyote ceremonies and writing these songs. Anyway, it's the back of the cover says, Chris Gantry, Johnny Cash, and the One-Legged Jesus. So
who was the One-Legged Jesus?
He was the guy running the mitote. He was a friend of mine in Veracruz, and I went and looked him up after years, and we went to this thing. So anyway, so that's a little Johnny Cash story.
So of all your times in Nashville, was that one of your best memories?
Oh, no, man, no. It's one of them, but I mean, there's so many. I mean, good God, surrounded by all these people writing these great songs. I mean, literally writing there was a publishing company there called Combine Music, and Combine Music was it was a representation of total artistic freedom, unlike the other publishing companies in town that were just scratching the surface. But this company allowed you and paid you to go out and do exactly what it is you needed to do to find yourself and write your great songs, because they believed you had the talent to do that. So I'm there. Christopherson is there. Billy Swan is there, who wrote I Can Help and Lover Please by Clyde McPhatter. Tony Joe White is there, who wrote Poke Salad Annie. Shel Silverstein, my good running buddy, good friend of mine for many, many years, is there with Boy Named Sue and all of his wild, crazy stuff. Larry Gatlin is there. Mickey Newberry is there, who was just a phenomenal romantic songwriter. Bobby Russell is there, who wrote Little Green Apples and Honey, and oh God, so much. And you're seeing these people every day, man, and hearing their shit, man, and hearing their raps and their music flooding you, and you're racing around, and you're young and full of energy, and you're banging them out. And so, and the other thing is that I'm a real. I will brag on one thing about myself, and that is I am a real good guitar player.
You are.
I have learned the deal. I learned how to do the deal, man. And when I got to Nashville, I could do the tiny deal because I was fascinated with a guy named Bruce Langhorne who played on the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan when he did Don't Think Twice. I wanted to learn how to pick like that. But when I got to Nashville, everybody was like crazy playing, man. So you got everything was by osmosis. You just hang out for 10 minutes, bed into you, man. All of a sudden so besides learning how to write songs, you practice for 500 hours a week and just learn all this stuff. And it's titillating, man. Titillating.
Man. I'm just, as a journalist, now I'm blown away. I'm really thrown off the interview because I got too involved in the conversation.
Well,
This is awesome.
Well, let me keep the conversation going. See, there was another way you could learn. And the other way was down on Fifth Avenue was the Grand Ole Opry, which was on every Friday and Saturday night, man. And I would go down there to the Grand Ole Opry on Friday nights and Saturday nights and take my guitar. And then when all the musicians filed in the back door because they had shows to play, I just throw myself in the bunch and go into the back door and prop myself up in one of the dressing rooms. And back in the dressing rooms was the scene of a lifetime, because here's Bill Monroe over here, here's Flatt and Scruggs over here, here's Skeeter Davis, here's a young Loretta Lynn, here's Porter Wagner, here's all these guys, and they're all getting dressed, and you see them in their underpants and stuff, and they're warming up on guitars, and they're walking into each other's rooms and jamming with different people. And you hear Buddy Emmons practicing on the steel, the greatest jazz steel guitar player in the world, and you're going, wow, you're in heaven, man. You're like Mecca, man. And it's coming at you, and you're standing on the stage and you're watching them play, and the audience is going crazy. And I leave there and file out of the place at midnight, and they'll go right across the street to the Ernest Tubb record shop where there's a radio show on, and everybody piles over there. And it starts all over again till about 2 a.m. So it was like going to college, man. It was, if you wanted to learn something about playing and singing and writing, you couldn't have been in a better place, man, because it bombarded you. It just beat you day and night. So here's the deal. So by 1969, I'm pretty burned out, man. Pretty burned out from the whole experience. I go to Woodstock. I go to Tim Hardin's house. Tim Hardin invited me to come stay with him the week that he was rehearsing to go to Woodstock. So I go up there, and it's total craziness. And he's rehearsing, and he's dealing with his own problems and stuff. And so we get in a helicopter on the day of the gig, and we fly over the mountains of people filing into the farm, man, for Woodstock, flying over, and we land behind the stage. And the hog farmers are there, and they have food and beer and booze and weed and everything. And so Tim Hardin goes on stage and plays Bobby Darin's Simple Song of Freedom. I sneak up on the stage, and because I've been listening to the rehearsals all week, and I knew all the words, and I'm singing in the chorus with everybody. So I can actually say I set foot on the stage in Woodstock. I'm still young, pretty young. So after that, I leave Woodstock in my truck, and I drive straight to Key West because I'm burned, and that starts another whole saga of novelists, poets, painters, and gypsy kings, man, that engulfed me from 1969, from 1970, all the way to about 85. And I recorded an album down there, a couple albums, and they're coming out this year on an archival label called Delmore Records out of Chicago. They only put out old, rare records. So they're looking at me as one of these rare guys. And so, you know, things, which goes to show you nothing ever gets lost. You know, you just keep working and not caring how it gets there. It don't get lost, man. If you have a heart for it, man. So that's it.
Well, that's
man.
some really great advice. You know, don't force it. It's pretty much, and just go. It'll happen if you believe in it, right?
Yeah, if you're looking for fame and all that kind of stuff, you can get there. And a few people have gotten there, and it's worked for them. But if you lose the love for the process, which I still love, I still get up every day at 3 o'clock in the morning and banging it out, man. And I'm still adding to the coffers of my music. You got to be in love with the process, man. Then that's the mystical part. That's when the song writes you, and you're given the songs. You're given the songs. You're just giving them to you. You just sit there and you're a conduit for them, and you don't ask any questions. You don't edit anything. You just sing it as it's given to you, and the song. You become what it is you write after a while. You become the living embodiment of the song. These songs.
So the universe talks to you, man. Just write it down.
Yeah, well, that's the way it must for all artists. All great painters, man. They must be, you know, things talking to them. Sistine Chapels. You know, cool stuff, man. Jazz.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
You're a cool dude, Mr. Durante. Gantry. I'm sorry.
I don't care, man. Call me anything you want.
Can we have another show?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we're just scratching the surface here. We're not talking about how, you know, the burnouts, the ones who burned out and never came back, but the ones who stuck it out, the characters, man, like Jerry Jeff Walker and Vince Matthews and Eddie Rabbitt, my good friend Eddie Rabbitt, who just wrote acres of hits, man, and lived a wild, wild life. We're just scratching, man. Yeah, we do it anytime.
Oh, this is great. So you can catch Chris Gantry at the Guitar Lounge in Galveston, Texas, with his songwriters school there, or however you want to call it.
I don't know.
I don't know what it's called. I forget what it's. I'm trying to find the ad, trying to figure out exactly what it was.
It's like you got to call it something. So you call it a seminar. But in truth, as I told Falconetti, I don't know how to teach anybody anything about anything except, you know, let's discuss.
Workshop. That's the correct word. Workshop.
We're in a workshop. Okay.
Starting March 18th and 19th. There's only 2 days, right?
2 days. Yeah.
You only do it for 2 days. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to meet and sit down with the world's renowned Chris Gantry and get to enjoy his experiences and maybe he can help you tune into the universe and just let the words fly, man. Let them come to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you hawking it, man. And we can do another show anytime, and we can pick up from where we left off, and you got to go in deeper, because what we talked about is the outer shell of it all, but the real grind of the guys who you know, stayed up and lost teeth and gave up their health and did wild things, like Johnny Paycheck, man. Holy shit. The life he led, holy God, man. Just great writer. He's a great writer, man. Listen to his song on YouTube, The Old Fiddle. the old fiddle, and him singing in front of a live audience, and listen to the words of that song, man. He was in prison when he wrote it, man. So, and then the whole Shel Silverstein experience, that's another whole tale of wildness and being in New York. It makes me laugh thinking about it because, you know, I feel like the old lady talking about thinking about back on the Titanic, and then all of a sudden the scene changes and I become young again and I'm running down the plank, man.
Yeah.
That's what this deal is about, man. So if you're a novelist, you want to write a book, come on, we'll write a book. Let's do that too.
I'm not, but I do have a friend who is a novelist.
Okay.
Well, maybe I can send him down to Galveston, March 18th and 19th.
There you go.
He's actually a very good poet and songwriter, but he doesn't know he's a songwriter. He's not a musician. He's just he writes the poetry is amazing. We'll talk after the show about that if you'd like.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So, Chris Gantry, I want to thank you again for coming on the John Michael Show. We will continue this next time.
Absolutely.
And I encourage everybody to look up the Guitar Lounge and Chris Gantry's songwriting workshop, March 18th and 19th, down there in Texas, Galveston, Texas. I think that if you would just to fly down to Galveston for those 2 days, this time of year would not be too much of a chore. It would be more of a pleasure to get away from the cold up here north anyway.
Oh, yeah.
In Pennsylvania.
Yeah. It's it's very beautiful. It's been a mild winter here. We had one cold snap where the Arctic thing came down a little bit and did a little damage to some of the plants and things, but it's been pretty much warm all the way through in the 60s.
Right. Your Arctic cold snap was probably 29 degrees and it was 12 below here.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, anyway, I'm John Michael, and this is the wonderful.
Thank you for listening, folks. Chris Gantry is my name.
Chris Gantry.
Come see me. Check me out on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. We're a happy family here. See you soon.
And